Thanks everybody for jumping on the BNB Investing monthly call. This is sponsored by REI USA. And so as a part of that membership, it gives you access to not only this monthly meeting, but there's probably, I think, a little over 20 meetings per month that other REI USA teachers are having, depending on the day of the week. And so this topic obviously is BNB Investing. For those of you that don't know, my name is Rich Munroe. I'm with Diamond Edge Short-Term Rentals. And we have been focusing specifically on short-term rentals for the past 4 years. That's our core focus. We converted a lot of our rehab business and our rental portfolio to focus specifically on that. We've got 32 listings right now, about 10 of them in Tampa, Florida, and the rest of them here in Atlanta metro area. And I'm happy today to invite my buddy Mike Hicks. Mike and I met a few weeks ago. We were both on a podcast for Flipping America, talking about short-term rentals. Mike's been in that space as well. And as you guys know, he specializes in tiny homes and container homes. And so what we're going to do today is just kind of an open format. Mike's going to tell us a little bit about what he's doing. I'm going to ask him some questions because I'm very much interested in learning more about the ability to set up a container home and do short-term rentals with it. And then we're going to go into some questions and answers, but I have the chat box up, so feel free to ask any questions along the way, and I'll try to help coordinate that through the conversation with Mike. So with that being said, Mike, if you go ahead and give your background and a brief introduction.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks for having me on, Rich. And hopefully we can answer some questions today and dig into this, I guess, niche element of short-term rentals. But, I guess like everybody else, I started out with flips and rentals. And, I guess my real estate history goes back to new construction. I started building new construction at 19, kind of fell into that. And did that until the economy went south and just kind of, bounced from opportunity to opportunity, whether that was fix and flips or rentals. 2017, we kind of got into some short-term rentals with duplex that we had just to kind of get our feet wet. And then we've kind of moved into the self-storage space a little bit and some light commercial warehousing. And then last year, I guess last year, right after the pandemic started, we closed on a property to build these shipping container short-term rentals. Something that I've been wanting to do for a while and just having trouble finding the right property. So we finally did get that set up, and we have 3 containers on that property now, and it's fully operational. And we're getting ready to start on our next 2 properties now with other unique short-term rentals, A-frames and VW buses. And we're going to do a Airstream tree house and a Hobbit house, and then a traditional tree house. So we've kind of, dropped the rehabs about a year ago. It's not something I want to do anymore, and we're trying to lay all of our focus into the short-term rentals with unique spaces and unique locations. So we're trying to focus on properties with views, properties with water, and trying to set ourselves apart with not only the location but the structure itself as well. So going back to getting into a project like this, it kind of starts with land selection and location, just like with any real estate project. So that's kind of where we focused for the last 6 to 8 months, trying to find the perfect properties to do this on, and really dive into that and make sure that we have municipalities that are in agreement with what we're wanting to do. So that's probably the biggest thing. But that's kind of how we've ventured into this space and got to where we are now.
Awesome. So I'm assuming it's an equal challenge with the zoning ordinances and kind of understanding where it's allowed, where it's not allowed. Is
Sure.
and can you, is there a difference from a zoning perspective between, you know, an ADU, obviously a tiny home or a container home, or does it all fall into one particular category?
It depends on where you are. You know, each municipality kind of hits it differently. Where we've built currently, they have no zoning at all. So it played into the container home just fine. We didn't have to jump through any hoops. It was inspected like a normal home would be, as far as egress and ingress and the things that they required. But they had no zoning that specifically prohibited a tiny home or a container home altogether. Now, we've looked in the mountains in Georgia over Blue Ridge and LJ and had difficulties in finding property there just because of the each municipality is different. So you've got 3 counties there within a 40-mile radius, and each of the 3 counties has a different set of zoning regulations. One does not allow tiny homes and container homes. One allows container homes, but they have to be one trip and have to be engineered. The other allows container homes, but they have to be approved by a state inspection program that's very hard to maneuver through. So, you know, the way we've done it is kind of gone outside of those areas and found areas that work for us without having to jump through all the hoops.
And where are you currently with the, I'm showing some pictures now. Can everybody see my screen?
So that one is in Dade County, Georgia. We're just south of Chattanooga, Tennessee. This is about a 30-minute drive to Chattanooga from this location, but we're also 10 minutes from the most visited state park in the state of Georgia, and that's Cloudland Canyon. So we attract a lot of hikers. We're also close to a hang gliding park that's about 5 minutes away, so we attract that. We're hitting a lot of Nashville and Knoxville and Atlanta visitors that are just getting away for the weekend. They'll come up here and spend their evenings here around the fire pit and spend their day out venturing around Chattanooga. So, you know, I've seen some others say that, but they're kind of an investment triangle. So if you can get inside the middle of those 3 large cities, you know, so in our case, it's Knoxville. I mean, you could go Knoxville, Nashville, Atlanta, Knoxville, Nashville, Birmingham. You know, we kind of meet all that criteria with those, with that triangle there. So it kind of fits the bill. But I think you could do the same thing with Atlanta, Macon, and Birmingham, or that type of deal. So.
All right, and so these 3 units, are they all on one lot of land, or they have to be subdivided?
They were all on one lot. So this, you know, particular municipality, they don't, it was more based on what septic would allow in this case. So the septic on this lot with the soil analysis approved it for a 3-bedroom home. So they allowed 3 1-bedroom tiny homes. So we were able to put those all on one lot.
And the lots were they already had electrical coming to them. You just had to put in a septic.
Well, the electrical was across the street, so we had to set a pole and then run our underground down the hill to get to the units. And then once we got to the meter, we ran our own lines from there. But so we added water and electrical, and then the septic system. So that was another thing. The septic system for this lot, although you know, for a 3-bedroom house, they would require 1 1,000-gallon tank and your field lines, but 3 1-bedroom houses, they wanted 3 1,000-gallon tanks plus the field lines. So, you know, and then we're digging in rock. So there was nothing cheap about this septic system.
And how many acres is this on?
This is a little over 2 acres, but I don't know if, you know, if you've ever looked at mountain land, a lot of times they will divide the property up narrow and deep. This is not exactly the case here, but this is more of a triangular lot, but half of the property is off the bluff and, you know, could never be used. So we probably have 1.25 acres up there where the field lines are and where the units are. And that's something, I learned a tough lesson last week when looking at this property. We have another 18 acres we just purchased, and just called in to get our power set. And it's probably 800 feet from the road, and met with the engineer from Georgia Power, and hit me with a ticket of $10,000 to get the power from the road to the unit. So, that's a big upfront cost that I wasn't anticipating.
$10,000 fine?
No, not if I said it's an invoice is what they want. That's basically he says that's their cost to get power from the road back to the unit. And because it's on the mountain, I have to dig the ditch. So they're setting a pole and running the line in the ditch that I dig, and it's going to cost $10,000 to get the power back there. So it's just something else to look at before you close on a piece of property or get into it. Typically, when we're building around here, the units themselves will offset the cost of the electrical, and they will usually drop the power for no charge or little charge. I think the cost to get power to these units was around $1,400. So, I was expecting $2,500, $3,000, and then it hit me with that one. I was a little sticker shocked, but just keep that in mind when you're looking at utilities and planning for your project, because not only is it $10,000, they're also 6 to 8 weeks behind. So you got to plan for those things, and how are you going to work without power while you're building, and so forth. So we'll use a generator until we have our power back there.
So break down the cost for us, Mike, on this particular project, and maybe walk us through a little bit about how you acquire the containers and, kind of the construction involved.
Sure. So the first container, that one right there, let's see. So the one to the right in this picture, that one there, we started out with, I built that in my parking lot at my office in 2018 to build it as a model home, to kind of show elected officials what this could look like. So of course, when it was sitting in the parking lot, it didn't have the roof or the deck on it. It was just a 20-foot high cube container that we cut the holes in, put the windows in, finished it out, tile showers, quartz countertops, every item that you could imagine in a small luxury home, it was in there. We had an open house, great turnout, but didn't change any minds, so it sat in my parking lot for 1.5 years, and I set out early, end of 2019, early 2020, my goal was to find a property for that container. So when we found the property, we went out driving and just said, let's drive until we find something we like. And that was, we drove along the rivers, the creeks, and then we took a ride up on the mountain and found this lot that had a realtor sign in the driveway that had fallen over and grass had grown over. And, we looked at it, it had been on the market for a couple of years. And that was, that's kind of exciting to me, because that's kind of where I thrive. I don't do a lot of MLS offers, but when I do, it's properties that have been listed for extended periods of time. So when I find something that's been listed for 2 years, usually it tells me that the price is too high, or there's something wrong with the lot. So we dug into it and just felt like it was priced a little bit high, but I felt like, okay, I can give them their price and get my terms. So I was able to get seller financing on the lot with 10% down, 3% interest for 10 years. So if you know about financing property, that's pretty good, because it's hard to get property without putting 30% down, and you're going to pay 5 to 6% usually. So we were able to take the property down with seller financing, and then started on this container. We went ahead and built both foundations at the same time and started on the second one as well, because logistically it made more sense to go ahead and build 2 at the same time versus 1, because I had to have the block mason up there anyways for 1 foundation, might as well do 2. I had to have the crane or the excavator up there to set 1, might as well do them both. It just made sense financially. And I knew that I could do two and do well, but I wasn't sure about the third one, so I waited on it just because I wanted to see what, how these did and performed, and so that's why we started with the two and then moved on to the third one. But the cost to build the first container, just the raw cost on the build, not including the porches and the foundation, was right around $23,000. That was a brand new high cube container. They call them one trip, single trip. They come in loaded from China with one load. It's offloaded and it's sold. So those are usually the cleanest containers. You're not worried about the contamination and that sort of thing. So we brought it in, built it out, and furnished it for right at $23,000.
So just so that I understand that, when you buy the container just itself, is that 23,000, or is the 23,000 including everything you did to it?
That was everything I did to it. And of course, again, the high cube, you can't even buy a high cube 20-footer right now, or I haven't been able to find them. So the high cube is 9'6" instead of 8'6", so it gives you a little more ceiling height to play with on the inside when you're building them out. And then the one trip are even harder to find based on the experience I've had lately. And which is why we use the used ones and the standard height on the second one. But that was the raw build out in the parking lot. So the container itself was $4,500 delivered. The rest of that was build out and furnishing.
Got it. So that's still pretty impressive. So you're,
well, that doesn't include the foundation, the on-site plumbing and electrical, the porches, and so all in, when it's all said and done, the septic and everything, we were in about 75,000 for that unit, and then closer to 85 on the second unit.
Got it. And then, so this picture is showing them actually putting the container on the foundation. Is there room downstairs that your living space or storage, or no?
It's all storage. I built them over foundation. Being a traditional builder, that's kind of what I knew. You see a lot of these container homes on piers. I wanted to do foundations that way I could have a place for my water heaters and my HVAC, if to keep them out of the inside of the property. That way we were able to utilize as much of the space inside you're dealing with very little space inside already, so I just wanted to maximize my space and set those put the water heater and the heat and air units downstairs, just so I'd have that extra space up top.
So you said 9 by 6. So is that the square footage? The
9'6" tall.
9'6" tall
is the high cube, and then 8'6" is a standard, but they're 8 by 20.
8 by 20.
Each container. I usually tell when they ask how big, I usually tell them that they're 23,000 square inches. That gives a little bit bigger number than 160 square feet.
That's interesting. That's a good way to quote it.
Right.
Okay, so the foundation below is typically for the water heater, HVAC, and then do you have like storage down there for the cleaning supplies and stuff like that?
It is. We have under the container to the right, the gray container, we have laundry and storage and cleaning supplies, and the one to the far right, and then also behind the container doors of the green one, we have another laundry unit there, so they have the ability to use 2 washers and dryers at the same time if they're turning all 3 units.
Got it. So walk us through this part of it. When you buy the container, what you decide kind of where you're going to have windows and doors. Your team is cutting that out, or do you have to outsource that portion?
So the first one we did all the cutouts ourselves. The last 2, we had the containers delivered straight to the fabrication shop and had them cut the holes and weld the frames in. They had a plasma cutter. We were dealing with angle grinders and sawzalls. So it was well worth it to have them do those last 2. This one here, that's a 40-foot high cube. I was concerned with getting it down the mountain, down the side of the mountain, because we had no room for a crane. We had to use excavators to pick them up and set them. So I actually cut 11 feet off of this one. We cut it from 40 down to 29 and reboxed in the end and then welded in the windows there. So I kind of I don't really know what they're going to look like until I get the lot cleared and kind of my foundations laid out. And then I'm like, okay, we'll put the bed here, and I want windows on both sides of the bed, and a sliding glass door on that end there where that bracing is. It just once I see the project, once I see the foundation on the lot, I kind of know where to go with the home itself and the design, and kind of each lot. I guess each lot decides that for me, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, depending on where the best view is and which side makes more logical sense to open it up.
Yeah, and this one actually, the first one was cool, the gray one, and I didn't really set it up for that lot. It was just kind of built just so I could build one. If I had it to do over and do it on site, I would have probably made the front window a little bit bigger, or actually made it into a garage door that opened up where the bed would be right out there in the open. The second one, they're all three unique in their own ways. That first one has a bed swing on the front porch. The second one has the loft where we took the top out of the container and vaulted the ceilings and added the loft up there over the back porch. The third one, that rooftop deck, I think is my favorite, and it just and I think it's quickly becoming the most popular on Airbnb too.
Very cool.
I love the way that rooftop deck turned out.
And then, so beyond that, from the construction standpoint, you're doing just regular electrical, plumbing, like you would on a traditional construction.
Yeah, it's all framed, wired, and plumbed, heat and air, just like typical construction. We did use mini splits instead of hard duct, just for simplicity.
Are you doing any? Is it is it just regular sheetrock, or is there something special?
It's regular drywall. Now we use closed cell spray foam that will keep the container from sweating. So that's the biggest thing with these containers, is using the closed cell spray foam. If you don't use that, you'll end up with moisture problems. So that was we ended up with close to 5 inches of closed cell, just to make sure that we get them good and cool and easy to heat and cool.
And that's that stuff they kind of spray in there like a foam.
Yes, yeah. So they have the open cell it expands a lot bigger and flakes out, and then you cut it off of your studs to get your drywall on. The closed cell is a lot tighter knit and it doesn't expand near as much, so it won't come out past the studs, but it's got a higher R rating.
Okay. Is there anything else that's unique in the construction with container homes compared to regular construction?
Putting a window into a metal 2x4 tubing or 2x3 tubing is a little more difficult than just putting in a window in a standard construction. But that's kind of that, and the closed cell foam. The other part of it is getting your plumbing through the floor without hitting the bracing underneath. You have to really be aware when you lay out the container, when you lay out the floor space, as to where you're placing the drains, because it's almost impossible to get through some of those plates without going through a few $40 hole saws. So we try to avoid those and lay it out to where it will hit without going through those. Other than that, it's pretty straightforward. Once you get the walls built out inside and spray foam, it's almost like a large bathroom remodel. It's not much to it.
Okay. And then, so this is your site that you've got your listings on. You've got, so you could actually rent it as 2 double cargo containers, the way that you have it advertised?
Well, that one, that's the middle one. That's the double. That's the one with the loft. So that's a single unit by itself. The rate's 180 in the winter, 200 in the summer. So we hit the summer rate starting early May and run it through end of November, and then December through April, the rates drop just a little bit.
And how's your occupancy been?
We've been at 100%. I feel like we could probably bump it a little bit, bump the rates a little bit, but we've not missed a day unless it was self-inflicted by closing for maintenance or repairs as needed.
And what's the average stay? So
1 to 2 nights. And we've had some that go 5 to 6 days, and we've had a few 3 days, but we do single night bookings. The turnover crews are fine with that. And, I feel like, I don't know. I personally feel like that opens it up to where a lot more people can afford to come and enjoy it. That's just, I guess, our personal thoughts on the matter.
And what's the average cleaning fee?
They're $40 is the cleaning fee on those, and that's just passed straight on from the cleaner.
Got it. I'm assuming everybody can see as I'm going through the listing. Is that what you're seeing on the screen right now, Mike?
Yes.
Okay, good. Just want to make sure I'm not the only one looking at it. I didn't notice, is this like the kitchenette area here?
Yes. So
and
there's
so do you have like a little small fridge and microwave?
Yeah, the fridge is on the other side of that picture. I think I saw it just a second ago. Maybe back to your right. So we did that. Okay, so the fridge is to the left of that sink there. We keep a see it there. Yeah, it's right in there. It's a full size fridge, just like you have in a home.
Okay.
We keep a hot plate, an electric eye there to the right of the sink.
I see.
Yeah, so that one. Yeah, it's a full size kitchen in that one. The other ones aren't as big. We keep there's a convection microwave above the refrigerator. There's a convection microwave in all 3 of them to where they could actually bake in that microwave if they needed to.
This is a really coul feature though, these ceiling to floors windows.
Yeah, that was, I love when I looked inside, and after we got the roof system on, I said, there's no way I can't take this roof out and put a loft up there. I couldn't leave that space alone. So we just, took a sawzall and cut the roof out of it and changed our framing around a little bit and added that loft, which I think is one of the, guest favorites.
Yeah, it's very cool. So then this is the loft up top?
No, that's the bedroom downstairs. That was the loft you were just in.
Oh, I see. Okay, I see now. Got it. So what's the total square footage, including the loft on this one?
That one's about 380. You've got 320 with the 2 containers, and then you've got 60 square feet up there.
Nice little deck and patio area.
Yeah, we offset the containers on that one just to give it a front and a back porch where they can come in uncovered and get on in.
Cool.
So one of the things that we did with that property, we made it where the guests would have to be 12 and older. We didn't allow small children just because of the bluff there.
Right. All right, then this is the other one.
That's the original one.
And that's the one that you had built as a model home originally?
Yes. So we brought it up, set it on the foundation, and put that porch on it. That's another thing that I'll say, that even with those windows, no matter how much silicone we put around those windows, we would still get leaks in a blowing rain, or the water that was sitting on top of the container would roll over the edges and run down and leak inside the windows. So I will not build a container home without a roof system over. So all 3 of them have an overhang of at least a foot, and that eliminated the leaks that we experienced when it was sitting in the parking lot.
What's your preference on HVAC? I noticed on the other one you had like a Daikin indoor unit, and this one's an outdoor one. Or is that part of the same?
That's part of that's the outside part of the unit.
Okay, and those are usually more than enough to keep that square footage cooled or heated.
Oh yeah, yeah. That one, I think that one's rated for 400 square feet, and that was, had I built this on site, I wouldn't have put that heat and air unit right there. But that's just that's where it was when we built it in the parking lot, and that's kind of where it ended up there. I'm trying to think of some ways to cover that up and maybe plant some bushes around it, but that was a kit off of Amazon. I think it was around $450, and then I think we paid $400 to have it installed. So that was an inexpensive kit. Would I go with it again? Probably not, but it's still working fine. And when we change it out, we'll probably go to Mitsubishi.
Okay. And then, so this is the bedroom here. And then that's the kitchen and bed and the bathroom.
Yeah, kitchen and bathroom. So we did got an under cabinet refrigerator there to the left, and I went ahead and set the stove eye inside the quartz on this one. And then again, we put that convection microwave up there to where they could bake, and then set those cabinets up there. We did Bluetooth speakers in the ceilings there, but they didn't last very long, so we're covering those up. But that was an Amazon purchase, and it was a name brand set. But I don't know, for whatever reason they're not linking up anymore. And I'm not going to fight with trying to change those out too often.
Right. So how long have these been listed now on Airbnb?
We went live September 1st last year, 2020.
And are you on multiple platforms or just Airbnb?
Just Airbnb with these, and then our own website. Now we are looking at adding to HipCamp, but with Airbnb they've stayed booked, so I don't, between Airbnb direct bookings, I don't know that we want to. It just, to me, becomes more of a headache.
Yeah, I mean, I always say there's a reason why Airbnb is so successful. They've got it figured out. There's simple things that they take off your plate that a lot of the other platforms don't. And, it's well worth that 3%, in my opinion, right?
Well, even with the direct booking platforms, I think we're using Lodgify. Even though we're not paying them 3%, we're paying 3% to run the payments. So it's a wash either way. The ones that are saving are the guests.
Right.
That's their price down significantly.
Yeah, that's true. So, cuts them down between 10 to 15, and in some cases 20%, depending on the area. All right, and then so this is the bathroom. So you got a pretty nice open stand-up shower.
Yeah, all the bathrooms ended up. We did 36 by 42, so it's a decent. They're big enough. I'm a big guy, and I can take a shower in them. Okay.
No, it looks nice and spacious for sure.
For a tiny home, it definitely works.
And you're doing like standard Durarock under here again, nothing special.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
And that's one thing that'll show. We built this one in the parking lot, so we had to move it before we set it. So we moved it, drove it probably 25 miles, and set it with that excavator. And none of the tile, none of the grout, nothing cracked. When these containers, when the doors are shut on these containers, they're so rigid, they're not moving. So that was one thing I was impressed with. Was that they were able to move like that and not break any of that tile or anything. We did pull the toilet out to move it, but
yeah, I would think the sheetrock would have been an issue too, just kind of changing its movement, but I guess not.
Yeah, there were no cracks in that whatsoever. A lot of that stuff, for these tiny spaces is IKEA. That sink and vanity and that mirror set were all IKEA. It's kind of the place to go when you need the small fixtures.
Yeah, it looks good. And this one, you got a nice size back deck on it.
Yeah, that bed swing is where the guests spend most of their time. Of course, that picture was before we put the bedding on there, but I don't know. We need to update some of our pictures apparently.
Yeah, no, it looks good. So are there any questions for Mike about anything that we've touched on so far, as far as the construction process, the cost involved? do you guys have any questions at this point? All right, so let's see.
Yeah, I can dig into those. Which one do you want me to hit first?
Well, let's do them in order. Insurance or financing for such a small property.
Yeah, so when I went to the bank and said, "Hey, I need to borrow some money to build 3 shipping container houses on the side of a bluff," they laughed at me. So a lot of the way we put these deals together is through small IRAs, and again, the lot was purchased via seller financing, and then the first container I paid out of pocket. The second 2 were financed with financial friends IRAs. So there is a second and a third on this property behind the seller of the land. All 3 parties understood. I have relationships with the 2 private lenders, and they're fine with it. I have a great history with them. They're smaller notes. So the way we did this, I don't like long-term debt, and that's just me personally. It's not for everybody, but with the cash flow that things are turning out, we took the first note. It was a 10-year amortized note through his IRA. It was at 10%. That's a high interest rate to pay, but the way I look at it is it going to cash flow? And of course it does. So we took and knocked out the first note. It'll be paid off in December. So we paid off the first note in a year and a half. Then we're going to double down and pay off the second note and probably pay it off in 6 months. The second note is a 10% interest only note. So we're not, and it's only due annually. So we're not, making a monthly payment to that IRA until the 1-year anniversary. We'll pay the interest for that year, and then in December we'll start pounding down and paying that one off. That's how I structured it. That's how I was able to make it work. We've considered going to the bank and refining out of it now that we have a history. But with the cash that is turning off, we're just paying them off and being done with it. I'm going to leave the seller in at 3%. I don't see any need in paying off a 3% loan. So we'll just let that one eat. The insurance, we use REI Guard. They do short-term rental insurance. And Rich, you can probably speak to some others that I don't know what you're using, but REI Guard's been great. They've added all 3 of these. They didn't have a problem with them being containers. They didn't have a problem with them all being on the same property, separate units. They've just modified the policy to work.
Yeah, we use CBIZ and Proper Insurance. I'm not 100% sure if they would treat container homes a little bit differently or not, but those are some other options, CBIZ and Proper.
And as far as the zoning, you can call whatever jurisdiction you're in, whatever municipality you're in, whether that's city or county, call and just say, hey, do you allow this or do you allow that? Or what is your zoning regarding tiny homes? Do you allow container homes? Because each municipality is different in some way. We're having an issue right now with the tree houses, at the tree house that we're getting ready to build. Their minimum square footage is 500 square feet in the county that we're building that one in. And it says it can be approved by the chief building official. Well, I took it to them, and then their reply is, we don't have a chief building official anymore. I'm just like, okay, where does that leave me? And it took a month and going to the planning and zoning board and the commissioner's office, and they changed their wording to where they now have somebody that can approve that below the 500 square feet. They just haven't had it come up in 5 or 6 years, so it hasn't been an issue. So it just kind of, I try to, I guess I'll say I live in the gray, and if there's a way to work around something, I try to figure that out, a loophole, or if change what I'm doing to fit what they're looking for, and maybe even make it their idea. But yeah, each municipality is different, so you've got to go to that municipality and just say, hey, what are your restrictions? What is your zoning allowing for? What does it not allow for? Anything special I need to know? And then on top of that, not only the restrictions for zoning, look at your deed restrictions. Go back a few deeds, and if it's been sold a few times, and get back and make sure that those deeds don't say one structure per property or a minimum square foot. I've seen deeds that have a minimum square footage requirement of 1,400 square feet, with 900 being on the first floor and the remainder being on the second. So those are things you got to look at too. You could buy a large tract of land, and some farmer 20 years ago, 40 years ago, decided that he didn't want that property to be split up, and he only wanted one home on that property. And it might not be on the last deed, but that deed refers to the previous deed, to the previous deed, to the previous deed. And just dig back and make sure that there's no restrictions there as well. Some of those expire, some don't. But I think that probably hit it.
Yeah, and I think it's challenging enough, right, with short-term rentals. So now you got to jump through 2 or 3 different hoops. Do you allow tree houses? Do you allow container homes? And then, oh, by the way, what's the short-term rental ordinance, if any? So you kind of have to check through a lot of different boxes.
Yeah, so yeah, that's definitely another thing, because some municipalities are not open to short-term rentals. Let's see, selling prefab container homes. I don't know. I've never purchased them. I have looked at them. I don't know what you would look out for, other than knowing that they were insulated with closed cell spray foam. That would be my number one kicker. If it doesn't have closed cell foam, then I wouldn't want it. We looked at one down in Alabama last week that was already set on a piece of property, and when you walked in, the mildew smell immediately hit you. And I would be willing to bet if I pulled it out, it probably had fiberglass insulation in the walls. So it's those are the kind of things, building it yourself, you'll kind of know what's been done. But I know that's not an option for everybody, and there's builders over Atlanta that are building container homes and selling them. Tiny House Micro Institute for tiny houses, I think they've got some connections there out of Atlanta. The insulation is closed cell spray foam. The other part, like my phone is blowing up over here. The other part on these containers is, by doing it on a location like this, it definitely increases the cost, but it also increases the ROI. I have set up models. I've got that's one of the first things I did was buy model train cars and model containers to where I could kind of lay them out to scale on paper. And I have a plan to where I drew 6 on a lot that's 60 by 100. And it's perfect for a boutique hotel on a downtown lot that might otherwise be blighted and not have anything on it. So that's a good use for these, because they're not taking up a lot of room. Put them in an L shape with a fire pit in the middle, and you've created a boutique hotel in your downtown. Just a lot of different applications.
So
these are Dade County, Georgia, Trenton, Georgia, just outside of Chattanooga, Tennessee.
Yeah, and we do have the full recording of this meeting. If you guys are joining late and want to kind of catch up from the beginning, you can as well. So Mike, what made you lean towards the container home versus a tiny home? It sounds like you're going to be doing some tiny homes as well. Is there something in particular that drew you to trying the container home route first?
Just being different. I've always been that person that's kind of on to the next odd thing before everybody else jumps in. But I just like the style, the architecture, the modern look. It's kind of bold and different. I feel like it's I don't feel like it's sustainable. I don't, as far as an apartment complex model or anything like that. They are definitely more expensive to build than stick building. There's nothing cheap about it. The fabrication is horrific when it comes to how much it costs to fabricate. Half the cost was the container and the fabrication on that gray one. So it's definitely not cost effective to do as low income housing or as a solution to the homeless problem or or anything like that. But for me, it was just I want to do something different. I've been building houses for 20 years, and I was ready to kind of express myself and creative, letting the creative juices flow. I guess just looking for something different to do. And now that's I've done those, and now I want to do a tree house, and then I want to do a hobbit house, and I just want to do something different.
So what's the difference between a tree house and a hobbit house?
Well, the tree house is up, up in a tree. The hobbit house is underground. So it's kind of the Lord of the Rings, I think, is where the hobbit house kind of came from. But yeah, that's and the hobbit house will probably be built out of a container and buried underground with the face showing. So that's kind of what I have in mind right now. The tree house, I bought some plans from Pete Nelson's tree house master, and just going to build that. I don't like the idea of tying to a tree, so I'm gonna build it on stilts around trees. I just don't like the idea of that tree dying and me losing my foundation. But
Makes sense.
that's kind
So
of the
the
plan for now.
so the hobbit house, it's got to have all sorts of other challenges with sewer and water and electricity. I guess it's probably no different than doing a basement, but there's probably some other challenges that come along with it, aren't there?
I'm sure I'll figure those out as they come. That's kind of I'm always ready, go, set. I'll dive into something and then figure it out. But there's a guy in California that built one out of a 40-foot container. It's basically done the same way, but they braced it up on the outside and then waterproofed the outside, and then covered over, and then laid rock on the front to where you don't see the container, but it still keeps that gives you that structure inside. So again, once you build it out, it's just remodeling a bathroom, but getting the utilities in, I would imagine you come underneath on the front side, which would be that'd be the route I would go.
Right. Well, I think your timing is dead on with, folks are looking for more unique experiences. With Airbnb's announcement last week about the 103 additional changes they've done to the platform, there's a big change that allows you as a traveler to plug in container home and like globally see all the container homes in the area or treehouse or what have you. I think the example that he used was Castle. So, I think the whole concept of travel now is erring more on the sides of that uniqueness quality. And the more unique you can be, the more that you're going to be sought after for travelers that want different experiences.
I
And
think it's definitely that experience-based travel now, especially the generation younger than me. I feel like that's what they're reaching out for.
yeah, we're actually setting up this week a horse farm in Gainesville, Georgia. It's probably about 35, 45 minutes north of Atlanta. But it comes with a 10-stall horse farm with the ability to have an experience and learn how to ride and so on.
Oh, nice.
And so it's a 5-bedroom house with a swimming pool, and it's going to be it's on 15 acres. And so I tend to agree with you. The more unique opportunities that you can structure for your short-term rentals and Airbnbs, I think it's going to drive your revenue to the highest level and your occupancy as well. So it makes sense as a natural progression as we look at different options to start to try to be unique. And so I commend you for kind of venturing out and starting that process. If folks wanted to reach out to you and get some advice, or do you also provide services to help people build container homes, or tell us a little bit about that?
I do consulting, so you can reach out. We can set up a consultation, and we can kind of walk through your project and see. I can walk you through. As far as starting, searching for the property all the way to construction. Um, the other, yeah. So that would be the services I offer right now. I'm not wanting to build for anybody right now, but I can point you in the right direction and give you advice and tell you where I would make changes, based on the mistakes that we made.
All right, no, that's awesome. And REI USA is a national membership, so I would imagine that you'd be able to help no matter if you're in California or in the Midwest, or it doesn't matter what part of the country.
Sure, again, it all comes down to what your local municipality says, but we can dive into how to find that information and go from there.
All right, and I'm going to put your contact info in the chat window here. Is it okay to put your number and your email here, Mike?
Yeah, that's fine. And then I've also have a YouTube channel that I use that term loosely, but we have some instructional, and then also kind of how-tos and the process that we've taken to build this last container home, and then some of the other projects that I've done as well. And that YouTube channel is Mike Does. But yeah, we go into all the different, some of my warehouse projects, my new construction projects, container build, and then we're getting ready to start documenting the treehouse too.
Very cool, very cool. So before we start closing it up, I know we had a couple people that joined late. If you have any questions, if you want to throw it out on the chat box for us before we close out here. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. So Anthony, Debbie, Deborah, Dolores, Mulaney, Valley, nobody has any questions for Mike? And we got a few minutes left. I'm just going to throw people on here. It's usually a lot more intimate for us to be able to talk instead of typing in the chat box. So I'm just throwing everybody on there as the ability, if you'd like to ask a question or any comments, you can unmute yourself. And, we've got a few minutes left to do that.
I would say before we end, don't lock yourself into a box, and really look at all the different ways you can put a deal together. And that, talking about financing a project like this, we've JV'd in the past with, investors that might have a great idea, a great property, a great project, but might not have the means to do it. So, there's people out there that will partner with you to get this done. And, it's a lot better to get 50% of something than 100% of nothing. So that might be a good way to start out and get your first project going. I don't know what your thoughts are on that, but that's a lot of the way that I got started as well. So when you're first starting, that's a big boost. Let's see, enough cost.
Yeah, Milan, we covered a lot of that in the beginning, but Mike can give a quick update on that as well, as far as the furnishing goes, the rough cost to set it up, fab, connecting to utilities, etc.
Yeah, on the gray one, it was right at 75,000. That was septic, water, power, furnished, decks, fire pit. The grading. Again, that's going to vary from lot to lot. We were building on the side of a mountain and drilling in rock for 3 days to get our septic tanks in. So, those things change with a flat lot and better soil. But that was for the one container. So, and then we were in 80 for the lot. And I think the furnishings, on that little one were around 3,000, just for, the microwave, the fridge, the bedding, towels, that kind of stuff, your vanities and so forth and so on. You get those convection microwaves are a little more expensive, but again, it allows you to bake inside without having an oven.
Yeah. So just a quick follow-up on the financing. Is it, have you attempted to do bank financing or kind of hard money loans with doing these types of projects? Or is it just something?
These are all private IRAs. Just this project is just now old enough to and complete with the third one. I wanted to wait until I got the third one done to reach out and see if I could get the bank financing on the three together.
So
they have a track record.
So like a community bank, so that makes sense. So before you approach them, you wanted to have like, here's the history of it, here's what we did before, and then they're more probably prone to financing you on those projects since you've got the experience now.
Yeah, I think now with the experience and the track record of the rental or the rentals, they would be more than willing to finance a project like this. But I didn't want to go until all three were complete. So now that all three are complete, I'll probably wait 6 months and then cash out, and then take that private money and do another project and then refi again. That's kind of the BRRR for unique short-term rentals. But I don't think the bank would have gone and lent that money had I just walked up and said I'm going to put 3 shipping container houses on a bluff. I don't think that would have ever happened.
Well, you never know until you ask. So.
No, you don't. But I don't know. I got a sour taste in my mouth for banks in 2008, 9, and 10, and then in 11, 12, and 13 when they wouldn't lend, and I've built good relationships with private lenders, and that's just the way I've done business between private lenders and seller financing, and I'm happy doing it, and it gives them a good return on their IRAs, and it gets done what I need to get done without having to deal with mountains of paperwork and months of 6 weeks of time waiting on the banks. I'm able to have the money usually in a week, and I can get to work.
Makes sense. All right. So if we don't have any more last minute questions.
There's one there, having a hard time finding the high cube containers. With a 40-foot, I'm still able to find the 40-foot high cubes. The 20-foot high cubes I've not been able to find. I'm being told due to a lack of export from China. And that's kind of what was relayed to me, that they weren't exporting, so they weren't sending containers over, and they weren't building any new containers at the moment. That's the way it was explained to me.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things that are short because of that being slowed down, and that makes sense. The containers themselves are not coming over as well as everything else, right? So
Yep.
Lumber and all the other things that we've got shortages with. So listen, Mike, I appreciate your time today and sharing this information. I'm definitely going to probably book your place. Marv and I are going to be looking at a new development in Calhoun, which is just south of where you are. We're going to be looking at some multiple units to do up there, new construction. And so I'd love to come stay and hang out at one of your locations. It looks very inviting, even though we haven't really tried staying in a tiny home yet, but it definitely makes sense if you're going to think about this as an investment to actually experience it yourself. So I'll definitely hit you up sometime soon to come stay up on the mountain with you.
Yeah, definitely. We've got some short-term rental podcasters coming in the fall that also are heavy into short-term rentals in Ohio. So that may be a good time if you can pair up and stay at the same time. Might be some good networking. Yeah,
no, definitely. Let me know what those dates are. But thanks again so much for sharing your information, and I'm sure the folks took this as valuable information. We'd love to learn from other experiences and new things. And thanks again for your time. And I'd love to have you come back at some point in the future as well.
Yeah, glad to do it.
All right. Thanks again, Mike. Thanks everybody.
Thanks, guys.
We'll see you next month.